Welcome, everyone, to Reinvention After 50, a Brand 50 podcast. Today, we have Jackie Halday, my partner here, did an awesome, incredible interview with Ryan White, who is 31-year-old phenom when it comes to social media. Just tell us a little bit about, what this interview is going to be about.
The thing I love about doing this podcast, Rob, is the ability to meet people that you otherwise would never meet. I just never thought, again, I would be able to interview someone as dynamic as Ryan. He's an entrepreneur who, at a very early age, it's a fascinating story, got into baseball and baseball coaching and whatnot, and started learning how to use social media. So he started just learning on his own. And then developed a business from it where he's helping people like you and I sort of develop their social media, I guess, proof of concept or social identity, as he would refer to it. But a real fascinating story, and really something, even though he's only 31 years old, he's in the last 4 or 5 years has an incredible story that I think our listeners could really benefit from learning about.
Yeah. And we talked about, the challenges that we have with social media, me personally. And this just goes to show, people in our age bracket that there's nothing wrong of, talking to Ryan White. As a matter of fact, you should be talking to different generations, especially the generations that have really learned how to do this properly. And you can have this collaboration. You don't have to have this, fight because they're so-called whatever millennials or whatever. They have so much information, and especially Ryan White. He is, you can tell in the interview, he is a man of integrity, and he will steer you the right way. So I just love the fact that he is open to everybody, and people like us need people like Ryan.
Totally. He is definitely a man of integrity. I really, really enjoyed the conversation that I had with him. And as I said, this guy lost, in a short amount of time, he had a lot of changes happen. I think he's around 27, built up 1 million plus followers. And then one day Instagram decided to change their algorithm, how they identify, I guess. So I don't know the nuts and bolts on it all, but
But I think his first successful website, somebody went in there and paid like thousands of dollars to just completely remove his profile, and he lost all these followers.
He did, right. And he's not sure. He doesn't exactly know what happened, but he does believe he was able to identify the person. But they also changed the algorithm as well, and where he lost 700,000 followers on Instagram in one day. And it happened to be something that Instagram did. And he basically lost everything. He lost a 7-figure income because of it. So he shares his tactics on how he built his following back up. And he sort of turned what was a real negative in his life and in his business into a positive. And now he's helping people do the same.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I really got out of that interview, is that whenever he had these incredible mishaps, not because of his doing, he just kind of regrouped. The first time where he got, pretty much hacked, he took 6 months off of doing social media just to regroup his life. And he came back bigger and stronger. Right. It just goes to show that when you have these mishaps, you have to just get in the right state of mind again, whatever that takes, and he took that 6 months and he just came back.
Exactly. And what he does with this podcast, with the interview, so he does talk a lot about what happened, the negatives, how he turned it into a positive, but he also shares how he helps brands get verification on social media platforms, and as well as strategies on building up your bio, like our bio on Instagram. So there's a lot of action items, and there's a lot of nuggets that people will, I think, benefit from listening to this podcast.
All right. Sounds good. Let's throw it to the interview.
Ryan White, digital entrepreneur, just magic man as far as I'm concerned. Really impressed with you. Thank you for joining me on the Brand 50 podcast.
Yes, sir, Jack, man. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate you having me.
So you are, as I said to you on our pre-chat here, I am so thoroughly impressed as just you as an individual. You got such integrity. It comes through with everything that I've listened to, all the other interviews and podcasts you've done, the reading I've done on you. You are a very, very genuine individual. And I've never had anybody on this podcast that has the following that you do on social media. So what you're doing is working, and I'm looking forward to sharing, or you sharing your secrets with our audience.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to dive in and drop some nuggets for your audience to see how they too can leverage social media and digital PR to go build a massive online brand if that's something they're looking to do. And I appreciate the kind words as well. I try to be a man of integrity. So I'm glad that's coming through.
It is coming through loud and clear. And I got to say, with my podcast, I think you're the youngest guy that ever had. You're 31, correct?
That is correct.
31. And we're going to get into your story in here in just a second, because you made it really, really quick. You got super, super big. I know you had some struggles, which you'll share with the audience. But you did this in such a short window, and you've done such a phenomenal job on the different businesses that you've got going on. So just for our audience, you've got, okay, so when I'm looking at Instagram right now, I've noticed you've got CEO Ryan White, which you currently have on Instagram, 2.3 million followers. You've got that piece of it. You also have an agency called Social Revelation. It's a digital agency where you help people increase brand awareness online. If you can, maybe just for those two businesses, just give us a brief overview of what they are and how they're different.
Yeah, for sure. So with my personal brand, we tap more into like press contributions to places like Forbes, business.com, Entrepreneur. And so with that brand specifically in Ryan White University is kind of like a sub segment, if you will, of my personal brand, where I'm looking to go and kind of think of it as like a Cardone University, where I'm looking to go and basically teach in this area, right, of social media, personal branding in that space, because that's kind of where I've really niched down the last 6 years. And I feel like I can really help a ton of people who are looking to go and do this successfully, do it at a very high level and do it very efficiently and quickly. So that's kind of what that is. My personal brand is more geared towards being more educational for people who are trying to travel the road that I went down the last 6 years. And then Social Revelation is my agency that we have more done for you type of services. So it's not, my personal brand is kind of more of I'm teaching you how to fish. It may take a little bit longer, but you're learning the ins and outs of the game. And then Social Revelation is more for those people who are looking for done for you services like, hey, Ryan, I'm looking to go build 100,000 followers on social media. Maybe it's Instagram, Facebook. And I just want to pay someone to go and do that while I focus on my business. And so that's kind of the biggest difference between my personal brand and then the agency side.
That's awesome. And I can see us, Brand 50, being able to utilize your services at some point here, because I think like us, a lot of businesses and people struggle with that. And a lot of people, in my opinion, make the mistake of when you look at the funnel, the full funnel approach, they don't look at the full funnel approach starting from the top, which is branding. They want to get right into conversion at the very bottom of that funnel. And it starts with branding. So branding, right? Branding is super, super important. And a lot of people don't do it right.
100%. You know, we live in a digital age here in 2022 where everything's going online. I mean, I think the pandemic that happened in 2020 only accelerated what was already taking place. You can see people even at corporations, right, that are now working remotely and things of that sort. And so I believe that this is the most important time in history where you have to focus on your online reputation. And that's kind of what I teach people is like really taking a strong step forward and building your online reputation, getting ahead of that and controlling that image when people go and look you up. So I like to tell people, you know, when it comes to anything online and in the e-commerce space, right, if you're going to purchase online, it's extremely important that you handle that brand properly, because people are always going to look you up in one of two places. In the first place, they're going to look you up as your social media accounts, right? A lot of times, if you're even trying to get hired for a job, that employer is going to look up on your social media channels. And so you want to make a strong impression there. And the one thing I love about social is you're able to control the impression that people are seeing with the content and the things that you're putting out. And so I just think that's so impactful. And so we want to make sure that we're checking that social media box. And the second place people are going to look you up is they're going to go to Google and they're going to type in your name, your business, or your brand. And so it's super important to dominate that first page of Google. And so this is where we like leverage digital PR, aka digital press, for telling that story and dominating the Google and checking that box.
Okay, gotcha. And then as far as like, okay, so CEO Ryan White, so you've got 2.3 million followers. And you started, tell us, when did you start that? Like, when was that started?
Yeah, so I've had that page probably, I think I started it in January of 2020. And there's a funny little backstory kind of behind that. Basically, I started with Instagram, you know, back in 2013, like most people had no idea what I was doing. Matter of fact, when I got into the social media space back in 2016, I had like 1,200 followers. And so, you know, basically through trial and error, going through the school of hard knocks, right, and learning the things that work that we now use in our agency to grow other people's accounts, I got really, really good, obviously, at growing these things quickly. And so I kind of went from 1,200 to say 100K back around 2016, 2017 very quickly. Now, I also want to point out that back in that time, it was a lot easier to grow organically than it is today. So that, the tactics that we leverage today aren't exactly the same that we used back then. It's a space that's constantly evolving. But the whole idea when I first started was, I was a baseball instructor at the time. And so therefore I would target the people who had a predetermined interest in baseball, right? So the method of how to go and do this is to get in front of the people who would have the most interest in, who would likely have the most interest in what you're doing, right? And so if I went and I, basically hung bait in front of people that were following Major League Baseball, Atlanta Braves, Mike Trout, who's a professional baseball player, right? If I did certain tasks, right? Follow, like, comment, leave genuine comments, right? On people's profiles, it generates awareness and, curiosity on who is this guy? So imagine a world where Jack comes on, he's following Major League Baseball. Ryan White has now followed his profile. He's liked his top 3 posts. And I've taken the time, right, to click on one of those posts and actually leave you a very genuine comment there, so that when you come on and you look in your activity feed, you're like, who is this Ryan guy? Now imagine you click back through to my profile and you see that I'm a baseball instructor who's actually teaching people, producing very high quality content on pitching, hitting, fielding, etc. You're like, wow, this guy's pretty cool, right? I like baseball. He's obviously putting out a lot of good stuff. And so you have a high likelihood that you're going to follow me back. Okay.
Right.
And so the conversion rate was extremely high back in those days. I mean, like 30 to 40% of anybody that we interacted with back 2016, 2017. And so that was in and of itself was kind of how we went out and we built these followings for people. And we could do this across different niches. I just obviously used baseball because that was the one that I was in. And so, yeah, man, that in and of itself is kind of how not only I built my profile, but, I did it for my wife. I did it for my friends, my family. And then lo and behold, other people started taking notice and saying, hey, can you kind of help me? And then kind of fast forwarding to 2020, I actually had, whoever it was, I kind of got targeted on Instagram. I actually lost my entire verified page at 700,000 followers back in 2019. Super unfortunate. I lost my personal and I lost my business account, which was responsible for 100% of my lead generation. It had over 100,000 followers. So I lost both in one day and kind of went right back to ground zero.
So let me stop there for a second. So I'm hearing this more and more of people in the wellness community where Facebook or even Instagram will just cut them out. Did Instagram just cut you out, just cold?
So this was more about, from what I've gathered, right? Because I have contacts in the space. It was a competitor of mine who kind of more saw me as a threat and kind of taking up a lot of market share. And so if you know enough people right in the game, you can actually pay enough money. I was actually told by my sources it was to the likes of $25,000 to have my page taken down. And so, yeah, I mean, he handed it off to an internal guy that he paid money off to basically to disable and deactivate my accounts. And so super unfortunate. He never, I never wanted to, I don't like to have beef with anybody in business. I try to just do right by everyone. And I only try to surround myself with people who obviously are people of high integrity, people that I could leave my wife in a room with for a month and not have to worry about it. These are the types of people I want to be in business with. And so I kind of left it alone. I mean, I'd heard through the grapevine of a name, right, of who it most likely was, and it checked out. So I have a good idea. But, I took 6 months off from social media, kind of looked at it as a blessing to step away, to get outside more, right, and not be so involved, because to be honest, I had no idea the amount of influence and time that I was actually putting into my social channels until it was stripped away from me.
Right.
And so, as they say, right, always try to look at the positive in every situation. And for me, I kind of Sabbath, if you will. I still ran my agency and delivered on my clients, but I just kind of like took a step back from social for about 6 months. And I remember January 2020, this was before I knew COVID was happening. I said, okay, we're going to create a new account. We're going to get back on the horse and we're going to just keep doing our thing. We're going to control what we can control. And we did. And so lo and behold, within 30 days, I was back verified. I had over 100,000 followers within the first 30 days and we never looked back.
That's an incredible story. And I know in that time period that you lost a lot of money. Like you literally, you were making a lot of money at that point in time. And then I know that really nice car behind you there, that's the BMW, right?
Yeah, that's the BMW i8. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you were living a different, I mean, I don't know the lifestyle. I'm sure you're living a great lifestyle now, but in terms of finances and everything, it's like you were way, way up here. And then it just, like you said, within a day or two, it was just like, it was from like you went down to nothing.
100%. Yeah. And so, I love to tell this story now in hindsight, now that I'm kind of over it, because I think there's power obviously in people's testimony. At the time, and I'll kind of dial this back to kind of make it hit a little bit harder. But, I came from a small town of 3,000 people. My parents were educators. I remember there was times at 16 years old, I would try to take my girlfriend out on a date, and my mom would hand me the card and, say, hey, go to the ATM, get some cash. And I'd pull out $20 and I would literally see like $100 left in the bank account, at the end of the month. That's kind of where I come from. And so this whole idea of going into entrepreneurship and being a business owner was something that I had always kind of inherently knew that I wanted to do, but I had really no example of it. Right. And so to kind of look at where I'm at now in the speed in which I got to where I got to, it was just, it's kind of crazy, really. It's a blessing from God, from the heavens above. And, there was no rhyme or reason as to why I should have been and got to the position that I did as fast as I did. And so I'll just kind of start with that. And then what I want to say is when I started my company, I was 27 years old. So before I had the idea, I was a baseball instructor making about 40 grand a year when I met my wife. And I knew in that moment when I met my wife that things needed to change. I needed to step into this role of a provider, start thinking more long-term. And so this is where the idea of like, I need to make a change, and I need to start thinking more long-term, more like a true husband and father would for his future family. And so I started with social. So the idea of everything that I started doing was, I want to be a business owner. I have no idea what business I'm going to start, but if I have an audience that I can, speak to, whatever I decide, it'll get off the ground a lot easier. And so I started I would go to baseball lessons from 3 to 9 o'clock at night. I would stay up till, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. My wife remembers this time very clearly. And we were at the time, all I had was a 700 square foot, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom apartment. And I would stay up and I would I would research the Gary V's, the Tony Robbins of the world. I would read forums, and I would just read every little thing I could about growth hacking. And I would test different things on my own little accounts that I had until, after about 6 months of doing this consistently, I started to finally get a little bit of traction. And so I got enough traction that by 27 years old in 2017, I said, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to create an LLC, and I'm going to have the guy that I'm working for. He actually helped me set it up, and he probably helped me because he had no idea that this was going to turn into what it was. But he was like, this guy won't start a business. Sure. I'm going to help him out. And lo and behold, I got to the end of 2017. Okay. First year that the business was incorporated, and I analyzed my numbers, and my full-time job produced me about $40,000. And this new part-time hustle that I had called Social Revelation Marketing had produced, around $50,000. And so I was like, I wonder what would look like if I stepped away from this part-timing thing or this full-time job and stepped into this part-time gig full-time. Right. And so in 2018, I did just that. I stepped away from baseball for the first time in my life. And I said, I'm going to go all in on this and see what can happen. And I started doing social media growth for Instagram specifically. So this is the power of niching down and going deep versus wide. I was like, people would come up to me and they say, hey man, can you help me grow my Twitter? And I'd say, nope, but I can grow your Instagram. And then, people would come up and say, hey man, can you help me with Facebook? And I'd say, no, but I'm the best at growing your Instagram. And that was our messaging. And I can tell you that at the end of 2018, after our first full year in business, about 18 months after I had come up with this idea, we did our first $1 million in sales. So I was 28 years old. And, now, when you hit a 7-figure mark at 28 and you've never experienced this kind of money in your life, obviously it can be very challenging if you don't have people around you to kind of guide you with that. And so it's kind of the same story that you hear of the 18-year-old kid who gets drafted, gets a few $1 million signing bonus, and that kid goes and like disrupts his life because he has more money than he knows what to do with. And he didn't really have the guidance. And so I feel like I had a season of that in my life. Not that I was out doing just crazy things, but I had moved from small town Georgia to right outside of Atlanta. I was living in Buckhead, which is one of the, the nicer areas of Atlanta. I bought $145,000 sports car, this BMW i8 behind me, and so I'm 28. I'm living in downtown in a very nice 2-bedroom, 2-bath in the heart of where all the action is in Buckhead. I'm driving this car. I bought myself a Rolex watch and did all the things that a 28-year-old would do. And I had the attitude of, you can't tell me nothing, kind of thing. My parents had no idea what I was doing. They were asking me if I was selling drugs. I'm like, no, Mom, I'm not selling drugs. She's like, okay, well, what you're doing is legal, right? I'm like, yes, it's social media. It's on the rise. This is going to be a thing. And it was just funny because I promise you, if my mom walked through that door right there and for $1 million, she were to get on this call and explain what I did for a living, she couldn't do it. Bless her heart. But so I went through that. And so at 28, I remember at 28 years old, at what I felt like was just at the peak of the mountain. Okay. I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, life is great. And so we actually book a friend's trip. I book a trip down to Tulum, Mexico for my birthday in June, summer of 2019. And what was very interesting about this was while I was down there having the best time of my life, paying for all my buddies' stuff, my girlfriend and some of my family and my buddies to come down, I got a phone call. And one little thing happened. Instagram basically made a tweak in their algorithm. And at the time, the way we were fulfilling a lot of these accounts was through software. And so in 2019, if you're in the social media game, this is the time where everything changed. If you're on the outside, you may not understand the significance of it, but with the API change, anyone who virtually was in software and growing accounts on Instagram, it went to zero pretty much overnight. And so just imagine, $50,000 a month, in recurring residual income.
Yeah.
Not including
income. You're just every morning you wake up, there's 50 grand in the account.
100%.
Wow.
Easily. And not including our one-time buys and other little things that we were doing. So I'm talking just rebuilds. We probably had at that time $50,000 a month coming in. And I remember within the next 90 days, because our software couldn't do what it needed to do, we lost virtually, I'd say 90% of the residual income, that was coming in because the growth, we couldn't do the growth that people were paying us to go and do. And so in retrospect, now I can see that was one of the best things that ever happened to us. At the time, being in the middle of the bubble, it was horrible. And so one thing that I had access to, I can kind of see this now because I'm a man of faith, right? So I was someone who never felt like they truly had an amazing testimonial story that they could share with people. And it would just, people start crying, breaking down, and it would truly impact people. And I remember always praying, I wish I had that testimonial story. And lo and behold, okay, God was like, I got something for you. I have a humbling experience for you. And so here I am, just living life. I get the phone call. Next 90 days, virtually I lose 90% of my passive income. And what I realized is God was basically, because I wasn't using my abilities that I had, that he gifted me in the best possible way, right? And I was kind of wasting potential. He was like, I'm just going to pull a few little things away to get your attention. And that's typically, I feel like how he works, at least in my life, in my experience. Anytime God wants to get to my attention, he starts to pull things away from me, right? Or he creates friction.
Sure.
And so with that being said, I remember when that happened, the next easy pivot for me to make some quick money was I have a lot of contacts. And so helping brands and businesses, personal brands, et cetera, get verification, the blue check mark, that was something that I was really good at because we had access to doing digital press. And it's the press articles that rank on Google for a person or brand's name that actually leads you to getting verification on social media profiles. Okay. So if you don't know that, that's the number one factor that goes into play. Is like, if you want to get verification, they're basically going to Google your name and they're going to see how notable is this person according to Google. Is he considered a highly searched for individual?
So let me ask you a question on that, because this is valuable information. So these are articles. Are these like editorial articles, or are they sponsored articles? Like how do you get these articles,
100%. Great question, because a lot of people miss the boat on this. So for the purpose of verification, sponsored articles actually do not work. Press releases do not work. Matter of fact, it's gotten to the point now because it's gotten so competitive and so many people are applying for it. Like our contact told us literally like 2 weeks ago that they were getting like thousands of requests every single day for verification. So because of that, these platforms are constantly like making changes to their policy of like what's deemed notable and what's not. And so it's gotten to the point now where you have to have certain publications that have, say, a domain rating of at least 70 or above, right? And those are most of the domain rating you need in order to rank on the first page of Google anyway. So it has to be written, by a contributor, by a staff writer, right, from that publication. It can't be a press release, can't be sponsored, so you can't pay for it. Okay. Because anything that's considered paid for, theoretically, is not considered as part of that notability. And so they would not use that article, if that makes sense. Now, back when this was a little bit easier, so say 2016, 2018, as long as you had 10 to 15 different articles about you that weren't just blatantly press releases, you could get it through. Now today, they even have, because here's the deal. When you have a lot of people that's using the same, like say 10 to 15 articles, right? Because they're using these same different agencies who do this. The problem is when you have enough people that are sent in with the same exact 10 to 15 articles, whatever platform tends to catch on, and then they'll start blacklisting publications going, obviously, these are publications that people are going to, and they're paying to get this exact bundle deal. Right. And so when you get that bundle deal, eventually it stops working.
Right.
And this is something that happens in rotation about every 4 to 6 months in this game. And so what people have to understand is like, they're looking for publications that, number one, a lot of other people before you haven't already used. And then number two, they also have to be from what they consider a reputable publication. So it's not what we think. And so I see all the time people come and they're like, man, I got 75 articles, can't get verification. And it's like, yeah, but how many of those are obviously on the blacklisted side, right, of all of that? And so here's the reality. It's gotten to the point now that these plans that marketing agencies are doing for people, they're significantly more expensive because as different articles get blacklisted, naturally we have to go get better publications, which naturally costs more money, which inflates the cost of deliverability. So therefore that gets passed on to the consumer. Right. And so just some little fun fact for your audience right now. If you're like, hey, I'm a person and I would like verification. What does something like that look like? Those costs are around like $26,000 for you to go get the articles and the credibility you need to get it done. And if you're a business, it's more around like 40 grand.
Dang. Now, do you guys write the articles, or is that individual write the article?
So the way that it works, the process is, we have writers on hand. So questionnaire would go out. A client would fill out a questionnaire. Our writers would construct drafts, submit back to the client for approval. Upon approval, they would then go to back out to the publications for live drafts. And so a lot of this network now is built on relationships. And so a lot of different vendors who have access to volume now will even contract deals for exclusivity so that they basically can guarantee that all these other people basically aren't going to ruin, you see what I'm saying? Their pipeline, their level of fulfillment. So exclusivity
and they probably want exclusivity, right? I mean, if I'm a publisher, I'm not going to want this article to be picked up on another domain. I want it strictly for me. So if you've got a good writer, somebody with potentially it's a good niche or whatever, I would imagine a publisher would be very interested in that.
100%. It works on both sides because they have one pipeline they have to focus on, one relationship, and they're getting a constant flow. And the thing with publications too is they're always looking for notable people with great stories to tell. So if you're telling me that, it's kind of like a win-win, because obviously they're getting an article about an individual who's very successful with a powerful story, maybe 3 to 5 tips that they could push out to their readers, right? And then on the flip side, obviously the actual client is getting a placement in a notable publication that they can then leverage not only on their social media or their website and things like that, but it'll also help them for their check mark that they're trying to go and get.
Great nuggets of information. Okay, I want to kind of get into just a couple of things here. I like I said, we could have gone on and on and on. And there's so many different areas I want this interview to go in because, again, I'm fascinated with your story. I was going to actually touch on your event timeline. One of the things that you did on your website, officialryanwhite.com, I'd suggest our listeners go, and viewers, because we'll have video on this too, go to your website. But I absolutely love what you did with, your event timeline, basically your life, your professional career. And you highlight from 2013 to 2017, the Baseball Academy, the coaching. You already kind of talked a little bit about that, but the one thing that I love about that story you shared is you knew nothing about social media when you started this academy, but you eventually figured out that you needed to grow an audience. And so you learned how to do it, right? So you went to Ryan White University to learn how to do it, to create it, to create the process and doing it. You became an expert in that one thing. And it's one thing with our Brand 50 audience is when you reach a certain level of age, 40, 50, 60, you're an expert in something. So like I'm an expert in video production, and I'm working with my cousin Rob on developing an academy on teaching businesses how to do their own videos. It's something that we're going to be doing. So everybody's an expert in something, but you learn how to do that. You turn it into this amazing business. And I should say businesses, plural, but take us to Instagram. So we have a lot of folks like myself and my cousin where, we're trying to grow our Instagram page. Maybe start with a person's bio, because I've heard you speak about like the bio is like a really, really important thing. Talk about the importance of a bio on your Instagram page.
100%. So the bio is the first thing, right, that someone's going to see when they come to your page. And so I tell people you have about 8 seconds to basically convince someone why they should stay there, right? Whether they should follow you, kind of what you're about. And so I kind of break it down. If you look at mine, I actually just changed mine up a little bit, but in the very first line, I try to give like a golden nugget, right, of something more personality. So for me, I had Ephesians 2:8 on there for a long time. So people that immediately they're like, oh, he's a man of God, like he's a man of faith, someone of high integrity. And then in lines 2 or 3, very quickly, you want to identify and tell people exactly what it is, who you are, what you do, and how you can help them. And so if you see on my page, I actually have it in bold exactly kind of what I do. And this is, we help entrepreneurs take their online brands to the next level, basically. And I don't have my bio sitting right in front of me, but in essence, the goal here, the idea is that the moment you read my second line, you should have an idea of how I can go and serve you. And if you connect with that, or if that's a problem that you face, you're immediately going to continue going down my page, right, to see if I may be someone that you want to work with. And so kind of why I also have my wife in my bio is because you also, if you've built other pages or you're affiliated with other brands, it's important to put those in there so that when people click through, right, to my wife and they see that, okay, aside from the fact that she's beautiful, right, she has 1.1, it does help. But secondly, she has 1.1 million followers. And thirdly, she's also verified. And so that actually plays in, it increases the perceived credibility of my brand as well. Because not only is it me, but it's like he's done this obviously as well for his wife. And so again, super important. Now, another thing that you can put here is as you start to get digital press and things of that sort, we want to make sure that we have notability here. And so a lot of people will leverage like as seen in, right? So you can put as seen in Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur. I've had that in my bio at certain times in the past. And so there are a couple elements in this. So like line 1, I would say, obviously put something unique about you that kind of makes you relatable. The second line, you want to make sure that you're either putting something of credibility or you're telling people how you can help them. And why it's important that we get those first 3 lines right is because on a cell phone, the preview only shows the first 3 lines of a person's bio. And then underneath that, you'll have to click a button that says show more to see anything past line 3. And most of it's on mobile. So this is extremely important. You don't want people to have to click show more in order to find out who it is and how you can serve them. That's why it has to be in line 2 or 3.
Yeah. On yours, I was going to say I'm on your Instagram page right now. So I'm on growyourbrand.io. So that's the one we're talking about.
Gotcha.
You take brands to the next level online, and you've got that all in uppercase, bold.
Exactly.
You've got at CEO Ryan White, which is, I assume, is a link to your website.
It's a link back to so I'm looking at it here now so we can kind of talk through this. So on Grow Your Brand, yes, line 1 is kind of the industry that we operate in, right? Industry leader in social plus digital media. So that we knock that out. The second thing is, what is it that we do in this industry? Well, we take brands to the next level online, very clear. And then the third one is my line of credibility, actually. So the co-founders of Grow Your Brand and the course that we're putting out there is myself and my business partner, Luke Hessler. But if you click on those, it'll take you actually back to my profile and to his profile. So again, this is actually a credibility point because you'll be able to see my profile with 2.3 million and I'm in verification. But if you click my partner Luke's, you'll also see that he's got 108,000 and he's also verified.
Okay.
Okay. And then you can read his bio and see that he also helped people grow and monetize their brand. Right. And so for the purposes of the setup between Luke and myself, Luke owns an agency and he's one of my biggest resellers. So he resells a lot of my services. And so naturally we connect on a lot of different things because we're operating in the same space. And then the last line obviously is just another line of notability. Kind of see this as social proof, almost like case studies or testimonials as seen in Forbes Inc. Park City Television. That's what that PCTV is for. And so the whole idea is I want my bio to do most of the selling for me as to why people should even look at my content, right? And so we've determined all of those factors before anyone's ever clicked on my website link or they've even checked out my content.
It's great. Yeah, no, it's great. The Forbes, traditional media outlet like that. And then the fact is that, it links back to your page where you've got over 2 million followers is absolutely, spot on. I've heard you talk, and we have Linktree. So if you go to the Brand 50 Instagram page, we've got Linktree. Tell us about the importance of Linktree.
Linktree is super important because it turns your one link into multiple links. And so it's just a way to direct the traffic to the places you want them to go, right? To the links you want them to see, et cetera. So like for my Linktree, I'll pull it up here real quick so I can kind of talk through it. But I'm able to put at the top of this Linktree things that are most important at the time for me or whatever call to action I'm trying to take people through. So of course, right now I have Build a Powerful Online Brand Zero to Hero course now available. And I have it obviously where it's buzzing. So it's like, it gets a lot of clicks, right? Most people are going to be drawn to that. And this is because I want most of the people coming, if you have an interest to learn how to go and build a massive online personal brand, this course obviously would serve you. And then I have another little value. So, down here with my ebooks that people can also purchase. So the top two things is a great way for me to also kind of monetize passively, just the organic traffic that's coming to my page already. Okay.
So I'm sorry. So let me ask you a question. I apologize here. I don't know why I didn't see this on your homepage. Where is Linktree on here? I don't see it on the Grow Your Brand IO.
So I'm back on. I'm sorry. I'm on my personal page.
Oh, okay. So you're gotcha.
Yeah. So
okay.
I clicked the little link.
Yeah. Going back. Gotcha.
Going back to mine. Yeah. That's where it's at.
Okay.
So Grow Your Brand. We don't have a Linktree for Grow Your Brand. I do for my personal because I do have multiple places I want to take people. The call to action on Grow Your Brand is actually to get people into our funnel, which is that website link. So because that's the main call to action with this particular brand, that's why we don't have a Linktree there. So with my personal brand, I do have a course, I do have ebooks, I do have other things that I could provide. But with Grow Your Brand, the reason that it exists is to get people in the funnel to the course so that they can learn. Like that's the whole purpose of that brand.
You also, just for our audience, you offer so much great content, your blogs. There's like, it's phenomenal how much free content you have above and beyond some of the other things you got going here. You definitely offer a lot of value.
I appreciate you. I would say that was kind of the purpose of my, the main thing I use my YouTube channel for is to take interviews like this and to give out as much free value as I can to help people. Because I know that if I had things like this in front of me when I was going down my journey, it would have saved me a ton of time, energy, and pain. And so that's kind of what I want to be for people who are walking those same tracks that I did. And I can just tell you right now, if anybody's listening and they want to go and do this, this is not me selling at all, because the whole reason I created the Zero to Hero course was not to make money. I'm doing just fine. I'm looking to actually sell Social Revelation for those interested somewhere between 10 to 20 million in the next 2 years. So like money wise, I'm okay. The reason why I have to charge for it is because people who pay attention, right? And the more we invest into something, the more committed we are to whatever that thing is to go and consume it and get results. So that's why if I could give it away for free and I knew people would go and take it seriously and get the results, I would give it away for free. I can tell you that this course is going to come May 1st. It's going to be sold for $2,000+. But when I tell you that the exact information that I use to go and literally make millions of dollars in 18 months or less is all in here, is jam-packed into this course. If you're truly, truly interested, I would highly recommend you to go to Ryan White University. I have it listed there. and take advantage of this course. Because if for any reason you get inside of this thing and you're not satisfied, if you email us and let us know, we'll give you 100% of your money back. You keep the course, the whole course. And the only reason that we can say that is because we're so confident in the fact that when people get inside, they're going to be blown away with what's there.
Yeah.
And I know that wholeheartedly.
And you got a lot. I mean, it's 127 lessons. I was going to ask you about that earlier, but it's 127 lessons. Is it a combination of video and text? Like what's the format?
So every single it's all video. So everything is video, and every video has a worksheet that's assigned to it. Okay. So the course is actually broke down into 5 different phases that we teach people.
Okay.
So phase number 1 is the intention phase. This is where we help you sit down. We have a full questionnaire for you to fill out to gain clarity on your brand, your positioning, kind of what you want to do, what problem and solution you want to offer to the market. And then we move you into the second phase, which is the foundation phase, which is where we show you exactly how to set up properly your social media channels, how to do your website, how to go set up your Google My Business, and all of the things that you need foundationally so that when we move you into phase 3, which is the intention phase, now I'm showing you the tips and tricks of like how to go out and land business podcasts, how to go get on a television show, how to leverage email and things of that source to go and drive the attention to the foundation we just built.
Got it.
And then in phase 4, we talk about conversion. And this is how to obviously take that attention and turn it into paid dollars. And then the 5th phase and final phase is the retention phase on after people are paying you, how do we maintain them as customers long-term? So 120 plus lessons inside of that, taking you through literally from square one all the way to how you make money and retain people over the long term is inside of this. Every single phase has a homework assessment. So you will go through the material, you will consume the material, and then our homework that we put in there is to make sure that you're applying the information.
Right.
So we have step by step for you to go and do that. And the one thing I love about that is because I've done courses, I take pieces of things that I love. We put that in there so that you can print these worksheets out. You can write on them, you can staple them. And at the end of the day, you actually have something tangible in your hand you can walk away with.
Yeah. Makes perfect. And that's how I like to learn too. That's incredible. I know you've got that, and you've got also the daily routine or the morning routine, which is, I guess, would this be your morning routine or your suggestions for a morning routine?
Yeah. So this is basically taking what I believe it's using a little bit of research and things that are out there showing you different elements that make up a very, very good morning routine. And then I kind of contrast that with things that I'm already doing. But the idea is to help you go and create one that works for you.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious, when does your morning routine start?
So my morning routine on average, I've kind of gotten to the point now where I can get up at 8. Okay. There were times, where I was, I'm more of a night owl, so I'd rather work like till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning if I have to.
Yeah, you're a creative type. Yeah.
Yeah. Then be up, at the crack of dawn. So my alarm goes off at 8 o'clock every day. The first thing I do is have coffee. And I talk a lot about getting into a positivity flow. For me, that's reading scripture. I read affirmations, I journal, and I do visualizations. And then from there, because I talk about the importance of like when you first wake up, if you can start getting positive inflow going in to activate your brain and things of that source, getting your body going, it's extremely can put you in a positive state as you move throughout your day and set you up for things that are going to be coming later. And so once I move from that realm of reading scripture, affirmations, journaling, etc., I then move into a gym. So luckily, I've invested into a home gym. So I literally have to, my thought process there was, if I have a gym that's 30 steps away from me, then there's really no excuses. And so that, and obviously being able to leverage the power of the brand deals that my wife's able to go and get. We have a full gym that's set up there. So I go do a workout. And so I'm really, really big on taking, from 8 a.m. to say 11 a.m., those 3 hours in the morning for me. Now, obviously, I didn't do this in the beginning because in the beginning, if you're in startup phase, you just got to go.
You got to grind.
You got to grind. And so I didn't have all of this in the beginning, but I've gotten to a point now, obviously having employees and things that are working, start work at 7 a.m. to where from 8 to 11, that's kind of me time.
Yeah.
Because I do a lot of my calls and with other business owners and interviews like this. And that's just to ensure that, after basically from noon on, because I'll typically work till 8, sometimes 9 o'clock at night, I'm giving the best of me for those 8 hours. And so in order for me to know that I'm showing up like on this interview and be my best self, I have to take those first 3 hours in the morning for me.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of what I've found.
You've done a great job. Okay. I promise I really wanted to get you out sooner. Just a couple more questions.
I enjoyed being here.
Just a couple quick more questions for you here. And going back to Instagram, I heard you talk on another podcast. You talked about, this is, I think, the issue that I have with my own personal, our Instagram account is breaking it into buckets. You got your personal bucket, you've got like the business bucket, and there was a third bucket. Can you kind of explain?
Yeah, content pillars. Yeah. Exactly. So we talk about, we call them the 3 tiers, and you can use this for your content. So on Instagram, obviously there's 3 columns there that are kind of separated. So I look at it as like my 3 tiers, as an example, is faith, family, and freedom. Freedom being obviously business, work related. So in one column, from a faith standpoint, I can post things with captioning, right, that maybe is around my core belief in faith, right? The next column obviously is family. So this would be, travel, me and my wife, things of that sort. And then the third column obviously is freedom. So this would be where I would post clips to an interview. This would be where I post maybe a tweet or something, maybe a link to a resource to kind of educate people. And so the idea is, by having this structure, there's less trial and error, right? Or thought process that goes in when you're trying to think of, oh, well, what do I need to post next? Well, if you have it set up this way, you already know what's coming. And so therefore you can plan a lot easier. One other thing we talk about in the course that's extremely helpful is actually creating 3 different folders in your iPhone as albums and putting pieces of content in each folder that you can then therefore leverage. And so one other little nugget I'll give you, if you're not familiar with later.com, later.com is a great place to go, and you can actually schedule out on a calendar, and you can auto schedule your posts to go out. So like, for an example, I have a VA of mine that on Social Revelation and Grow Your Brand, we post consistently Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We already have all our content scheduled out all the way through the end of May. That's taken care of. So we don't even have to think about it for the next 30 days. And we always tries to stay 30 days out.
I love the pillar idea. And then, I got a lot of, the last question for you here is just the posting. How often should people be posting?
What I would say is minimum 3 times per week. The algorithms, remember, thinking from the standpoint of these platforms, their number one goal is to keep people engaged and on the platform. So with that, they're naturally going to reward people who are obviously helping them in that goal. And so the more you can post, the more active you are, you typically will get rewarded in the algorithm for the more times you post. Now, you don't want to have 2 followers and post 15 times in a day. So I would say work your way up to where maybe if you're under 100,000 followers, I would say, you shouldn't be posting more than 3 or 4 times a day, max. When you're first starting out, it's okay I would start, if it was me, trying to post at least once every day. And so that was, Russell Brunson talks about this as well, on how a goal should be when you're starting social, to post once a day, every day for a single year. And you'll be surprised how far you come, and do that on every single channel that you want to have a presence on.
And using hashtags too, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So I actually have a very good resource on our website. And we actually teach this in the course as well. On hashtag research, we have a proprietary system that I curated to go and basically help your post rank and reach more people. You can get access to that on our website at socialrevelation.co, or you can go to ronwhiteuniversity.com, and that the whole process is inside the course. We teach you how to go and do it. The final thing that I'll say when it comes to content in terms of nuggets is most people want to maintain an 80 to 20 ratio when it comes to that. So 80% consistency, 20% randomness, right? So 80%, most people like the consistency, right? When it comes to content, like they know what to expect. They kind of get an idea for what's coming. But then most people also, you can keep people hooked when you throw in that 20% random. So try to keep a 80 to 20 ratio there. And then the final thing that I'll say when analyzing your content is check out the ABCDQ method. And what that basically means is, when you're analyzing a piece of content, you go through those letters. So A, is this aesthetically pleasing, right? Is this going to be something that catches people's attention? B, obviously, is for branding. Is this on brand with what I'm trying to put out, right? So for instance, it wouldn't make sense for me to go post me in the gym working out when I'm trying to obviously be positioned as a digital expert when it comes to, say, social media marketing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So is it on brand? C is it consistent? So is it in alignment with things that I've posted in the past? And then D is for diversification. Is it diverse enough from the other things that I posted, or is this basically just repetitive and the last 3 posts basically are saying the same thing?
Right.
And then Q just basically stands for quality. So is this something of quality? Because we want to make sure we're maintaining quality over quantity. So those are usually just some rules of thumb that I use as like a guideline.
I lied. Final question. Video.
Video.
One of the things so my cousin and I are working on he's a audio engineer, professional audio engineer, been an audio engineer for 30 years. I've been producer, director of photography for a number of years. So we're working on an academy right now. We're in the process of developing it. We're going to teach small businesses how to produce their own content, shoot their own videos. What's your opinion on video? Do you think it's something that as we go further and further, it becomes just, it's become more and more important to have?
100%. So it's proven statistically. I think you get 35% more engagement on a video than you do a photo. And it may be even higher now. I think the last time I looked it up, it was actually 35%. I wouldn't be shocked if it's much higher now. But video, naturally, it stimulates more things, right? Because it's stimulating someone's sight and sound versus just with a photo, right? It looks good. And so when we can stimulate more of the 5 senses, naturally, it's going to be more engaging. And so you can already see it. Most platforms are moving more to video. I think even Instagram made a statement that they have now officially moved away from a photo sharing app to more of a video sharing app. Yeah. They've already kind of made that discrepancy. And so that's why you're seeing the rise of Reels right now. So you see a lot of people, their content strategy is they're only posting Reels because Facebook's trying to compete with TikTok short form video. And so they implemented Reels. So naturally people on Instagram are getting more reach just by posting Reels. So they're like, there's a lot of people not even wasting their time with photo right now. And so, yeah, definitely video is the way to go if you can do it. My thought there is try to focus on more longer pieces of content in terms of like 3 to 5 minutes. And the reason I say that is because if you can sit down and record a video for 3 to 5 minutes, you have everything you need to turn it into short form and into a 10 or 15 second reel. Mm-hmm. And so, you can hire a team, a VA, or, you can outsource it to an agency to where people all they do is take 3 to 5 minute pieces of content or an interview like this, and then they turn it into short form content. So the one thing you can go that direction, right? But the one direction you can't go is to take a 10-second video and turn it into a YouTube clip.
Yeah.
So my recommendation when I create is I try to put more time and energy in sitting down, planning out, scheduling out at least 3 to 5 minutes. And then I know I can at least turn that probably into 10 or 12 different pieces of content.
That's awesome. Great feedback, man. I love this conversation so much. I also love your background, hustle and grind, because it is a hustle and a grind.
Yes, sir. And the last one's execution. You just can't see it.
Oh, you can't see. Okay. Hustle,
grind, and execution.
That's the name of the game.
Yes,
Ryan,
sir.
we're gonna have all the information in the show notes. We will have links to your courses. I'd highly recommend folks jump on the courses. And again, I can't thank you enough for doing the Brand 50 Reinvention After 50 podcast with me.
100%. And I appreciate you having me. And if you want to do a version 2, I'm happy to do that as well. I know there's a ton more that we could dive into, so I'm open to it.
We definitely will do that. Thank you, Ryan.
Yes, sir. Sounds good, Jack.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast. For more information on all of our guests, go to brand50.com, where you'll find show notes and other resources to help guide you through the next exciting phase of your life. Please consider subscribing to our podcast on iTunes, along with other platforms, and write us a review while you're there. You can also sign up for our email list on our site to get the latest podcast updates. We promise you won't get a constant barrage of emails from us, and you can bet we'll protect your privacy as well. You can also follow us on social media accounts listed on our site. Thank you for listening.